language, alpha, beta, quite unhelpful, you know. Basically what you're saying is some people are up here and they're untouchable, and you're down here and you can't touch them, not even a little bit. And I think that's why I used to get so intimidated. If I ever met anyone who I thought was more powerful than me or more successful than me, and like if I ever met a famous person, I would go to pieces, you know. I would be a bit like when you're a teenager and you're around someone you fancy, you know, and your mouth goes all dry and you can't get the words out and you are visibly erect. I was like that with famous people, and now I'm never allowed back to Madame Two Swords. But you know, these days I've changed my opinion. I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, frankly, barely able to sustain an erection. But I've kind of realized that at the end of the day, famous people, they're just famous, but they're also just people, you know? They're just like you and me. Well, more like me, maybe. But like, also, nobody likes a name dropper. And I learned that from Tom York from Radiohead. He's kind of like a big deal. He's like the Gary Barlow of Radiohead. And I used to live in Oxford and he was in Tesco. And I noticed that he was putting his shopping into those 5p plastic carry bags, you know, like loads of them, double bagging. And I thought, Tom York does not give a fuck about the environment. He's exactly like me, except, you know, okay, he's not exactly like me because he's headlined Glastonbury twice. But then as I said to Tom York, I've got a bag for life, so who's the alpha male here? Anyway, I learned from him that if you meet someone famous, you know, what you should try and do is just take an interest in them as a person. Don't just think about like what makes them famous. Like I actually once met Gary Barlow. He lives in the next village along from my mother-in-law. So you see him around and he's kind of a big deal. He's like the Tom York of Take That, if Tom York could write a proper fucking chorus. Anyway, I was out for a walk and I saw Gary Barlow, and incredibly, he was there, so double spot, he was there playing tennis with actual Jason Donovan. You know, used to be in Neighbours, then he was an 80s heartthrob, then he went out with Kylie, then he stopped going out with Kylie, then he was like puffy and druggy, then he was thin and druggy, then he was in musicals, then he was bald and ice skating, and now he's on Magic FM. Like I said, take an interest in the person, that Jason Donovan. So I went up and I said, do you fancy making it a game of doubles? And I'll always remember what Gary Barlow said to me. It was quite vivid. He said, hey, fuck off. He's from Manchester. So it seemed like harsh at the time, but I reflected on it as I was escorted out of Gary Barlow's garden. You know, he was just being himself. And, you know, he's a national treasure. Jason Donovan, on the other hand, what an absolute prick. He didn't stand up for me once. Everybody needs good neighbors, Jason. You ever think about that? And it matters to me because, like, whether you're famous or you're not famous, you should care about how you make other people feel, right? You should try and put them at their ease. Like, I once met Dame Judi Dench, and she is a national treasure. She is like on a par with Gary Barlow. And as an actor, Dame Judi Dench, personally, I would say she is better than Jason Donovan, and even in Joseph, very good. But you know, I was at the Globe Theatre, and I don't know if you've been there, but they have these really hard bench seats, and you know, you rent a cushion. I was in the queue, and the woman in front of me turned around. There I was, face to face, well, she's down there actually, but Dame Judi Dench. So I said, that looks comfy. And she didn't say anything. So this time I pointed at the cushion and I pointed at her bottom. That looks comfy. Great woman. I learned from that, you know, if a famous person is busy, you don't have to disturb them. It's okay. Like I once met Joanna Trollope, the novelist. I don't know if you know her, but she is like the Dame Judi Dench of popular fiction. I was at the Hay Literary Festival and she was at this desk signing books for a whole long queue of people. And I thought, you know what, don't disturb her, Will, it's cool. Just don't disturb her. So instead, I went and I stood very quietly, just behind her. And in our selfie, she looked a bit startled and kind of angry, but she smelled delicious. So what am I saying? Essentially, what am I saying? I'm saying that if you come across a famous person, you know, be brave, be yourself. Don't be intimidated. They're not untouchable. Like I once met Jeremy Paxman, you know, from Newsnight University Challenge. He's like basically the Joanna Trollope of asking difficult questions. And he's got this reputation of being like a real alpha male. He's quite aggressive as an interviewer, quite abrasive. And I'll be honest, I began to feel a bit of the old fear coming back, you know, like my mouth was going dry. I had the first twitches of a semi-on. But then I thought, no, it's okay, Will, you got this. You know, you can do this. So I just went up to him and I said, hello, Jeremy. Do you have any difficult questions you would like to ask me? And he didn't say anything. They often don't, to be fair. But you know what? That was okay. That was okay because I had mastered my fear. And at the end of the day, we were just two guys standing side by side at the urinal. And I looked over and I noticed that he was right-handed. So that's another thing that we have in common. And you know what? I'm proud of myself because I reached out and I shook that hand and I didn't take no for an answer. Thank you.